Hi friends, welcome back to the Gear Shed. It's Trevor, and I wanted to do a new show talking about materials. And so this is going to be our Gear Shed material focus show, the first episode of it. And today we're going to be talking about expanded polytetrafluoroethylene. And I always got to look at my notes to see that, because I always forget what the acronym stands for, but ePTFE for short. So ePTFE is better known as Gore-Tex, and a lot of people call me and ask me in the springtime and the winter, and they say, hey Trevor, what kind of dry suit should I get, and what's it all about? So they'll see something like Gore-Tex, and they'll say, should I get a Gore-Tex dry suit? Well, let's talk about Gore-Tex. Let's talk about what it is and what it's all about, and then I'll kind of dive into different manufacturers and construction and things like that. So let's start off with what Gore-Tex is. Now, Gore-Tex is it's just a membrane. It's not actually a fabric. So let's get that out of the way first. Gore-Tex was created by a guy named Bob Gore in 1969, and he took PTFE, polytetrafluoroethylene, which is a coating. It's actually a nonstick coating, better known as Teflon by its trade name. And he heated it up and stretched it out, and it created this really awesome fabric that we use all over the outdoor industry now. So what ePTFE is, it's one part of a durable water repellent fabric. So over here I have an NRS paddle jacket. And at the time of recording this, NRS started actually using Gore-Tex, but before they were using a material called Hypertex. Now, when we look at this blue fabric, this is not the Hypertex, and this is not Gore-Tex. On this paddle jacket, it's nylon. So we see nylon, and then bonded to the inside of the nylon, you'll feel this, like, it's kind of a soft, plasticky fabric, and or that's what it kind of feels like when you touch it. So you've got the nylon fabric, and bonded to it is the ePTFE. So there are 2-layer and 3-layer designs, and I'll get into material construction in a minute, but I want to talk about a little more of the physical properties of Gore-Tex or ePTFE. Now, the pores on ePTFE are approximately 20,000 times smaller than a drop of water, but they are 700 times bigger than a molecule of moisture vapor. So I'm not a physicist, and I don't have an electron microscope or some sort of awesome microscope with a camera attached to it that I can show you what this looks like. But what this means is that if you have a droplet of water and the water splashes on you, it's not going to go through the material. It won't permeate. But if you do have moisture vapor, which comes out as sweat, that's going to penetrate the fabric and go away from your body, which is super cool. So the material is naturally hydrophobic, but it relies heavily on a difference in relative humidity to transfer moisture vapor through the product. So this is really awesome if you're an alpine mountaineer. You have really low humidity on the outside of your jacket, and then as you're sweating and climbing, you'll have high humidity on the inside. So next to your body, that moisture vapor goes away from your body and gets sucked out by that difference in relative humidity. Super awesome for that. However, we're boaters, and if you're a boater and you're using this gear, here's what's going to happen. You're going to have high relative humidity on the outside because you're going to have water splashing you. You're going to have high relative humidity on the inside, and it's just not going to work as effectively as it would in, say, an alpine mountaineering condition. That's just how it works. A lot of people complain that when they put on dry suits, they get sweaty. It's a fact of what we're doing and the physics of how it works. So that's a big concern for people when they say, oh, I'm getting wet under my dry suit. And it's like, well, you're probably getting sweaty under your dry suit, and it's not able to remove that vapor from your suit. Now, it is possible this will work a lot better if say you're in a really dry environment, like you're on the Grand Canyon or at high altitude, and you're running like kind of a placid river. It's warm out. It's just going to pull that away from you. As you get splashed, it's not going to give you a problem. So let's talk about heat retention, though. ePTFE has really good heat retention properties. However, it's most useful in preventing heat dissipation through convection by keeping liquid water away from your skin. So in a lot of cases, if you're just wearing like a fleece top, you're going to get a lot of water moving across your skin, and it's going to be transferring heat away from your body. So this is where this material really shines, is that water hits your skin and just kind of beads off. And so let's look at some environmental concerns with this stuff. ePTFE is a thermoplastic, and it's created from chloroform, which is largely emitted from seaweed, which I didn't know. Super interesting fact. Most of the chloroform that's in the atmosphere and in the environment comes from seaweed. It's a byproduct of it. And thermoplastics tend to liquefy instead of just burning off, which allows them to be easily injection molded and then subsequently recycled. So super cool part of that. However, there is very little ePTFE inside your suit, and it is typically bonded with another fabric, which makes it hard to recycle. In addition to that, when ePTFE is heated above 280 degrees, it starts to cook off different gases. So things like hydrogen fluoride, carbon monoxide, and other byproducts that are typically fluoropolymers of low molecular weight, which are pretty nasty for the environment. So that is a concern, and there's not a lot of people, based on my research, who are actually recycling this stuff. It pretty much just goes in a landfill when you're done with it. So that's a really good argument for when you have a dry suit to just keep it going as long as you can. So and you know, that also comes into a bigger discussion of what kind of material your suit is made out of. And in some of our subsequent videos on things like nylon and polyester, which is the bulk of suits are made of, we're going to talk more about that. That's all the face fabric, and that's kind of the important part of it. So let's talk about what ePTFE is commonly used in for boaters. And we're going to see dry suits and paddle jackets. This is where you're going to find all the PTFE pretty much in the boating community. So there's two different types of designs that are out there, and there are either 2-layer designs or there are 3-layer designs. So it's a common misconception that this Coquetat suit is made out of Gore-Tex. It's actually not made out of Gore-Tex. And it's very important what this face fabric is. So let's first talk about the different layer designs. So you have a 2-layer design, which is like this paddle jacket. On the outside, you're going to have the face fabric, whatever that face fabric is. And on the inside, you're going to have this ePTFE right here. So the ePTFE is just bonded to the face fabric, and you know, in lighter duty things, it's cuts the cost of the garment quite a bit because you only have one layer of the face fabric. Now, if we take a dry suit, and if you're wondering why dry suits are so expensive, is because you have nylon in this suit anyway. This is a Coquetat suit. You have nylon on the outside, you have nylon on the inside, and sandwiched in the middle, you have the ePTFE. Or Gore-Tex, because Coquetat uses the actual brand of Gore-Tex. So these are the two designs that you're going to have. And the more material that you put in here, the more nylon you're putting in here, the more expensive you're making the garment. So if you have a 3-layer garment, obviously it's going to be more expensive. Now, there are other designs other than nylon. The NRS paddle jacket that I have here, this one is made out of nylon. This is an older jacket, but it does have a nylon face fabric. This is an immersion research Aphrodite suit, and inside this suit we have a layer of polyester. On the outside material, the face fabric also is polyester, and sandwiched between them is ePTFE. It's not Gore-Tex, it's a different type, but the chemical and physical properties of it are generally pretty similar. So let's talk about this misconception. So everybody calls me up, they say, Trevor, you know, I'm thinking about getting this Gore-Tex suit. Well, again, it's not a Gore-Tex suit. So you really need to check with a manufacturer and what suit you're actually getting. Immersion Research makes 2 types of suits. One of them is a nylon suit, one of them is a polyester suit. Coquetat, as far as I know, just makes polyester suit, or I'm sorry, nylon suits. And so really to understand what you're getting when you get a dry suit, everybody uses ePTFE. It doesn't really matter. They're so close and so similar, and effectively, it doesn't really matter because you don't have a high difference in relative humidity. So because you don't have that difference in relative humidity on the inside and outside suit, it's actually really close because you're sweating on the inside and you're getting splashed on the outside. The moisture bit just really can't get through that well. So what we want to focus on when we're buying dry suits and stuff, or paddle jackets, is going to be what the face fabric is. So you really want to understand what that face fabric is and how it works with the suits. So some interesting studies that I found, PTFE will degrade in the presence of water and metals like gold, copper, zinc, iron, and silver. So one of the most important things, and I was talking to Immersion Research about this, is that you will get a lot of degradation inside a 3-layer piece of fabric, and that's the thing that degrades first is water, which is kind of odd when you think about it, because this is supposed to keep you dry and it's supposed to be a dry suit. It's supposed to be impermeable to water. But that's the issue for the suits as well, is that these suits degrade with water. So when you see a lot of suits that haven't been cared for super well, and this happens when you're in the field. So if you're, say, on a 30-day Grand Canyon trip, and you start getting water absorption inside the material wets out, especially on nylon suits. So that's going to be your, pretty much most of your Cocotat suits, your NRS suits, your, I think level 6 also, and the Devil's Club suits from Immersion Research. What you're going to see is you're going to start to see bubbling in the face fabric. And so that's going to be on the outside. You'll look at it and you'll see, you know, on some spots it'll start to bubble up in weird ways and start to, like, it looks like it's pilling a little bit. The reason for that is that the PTFE is deteriorating inside your suit, and if you keep it wet too long, it's just going to start to break down. And Kaylee had a jacket, she actually got rid of it just recently, that the PTFE was breaking down, and it kind of starts to flake off and peel in little pieces. So with that PTFE, it's going to do that, but inside, and it can't get out. So it just kind of bubbles up, and you lose cohesion between the 2 layers of fabric. So they start to make this weird sort of like pilling and bunching all over your suit and bubbling up. And that means the PTFE is basically destroyed. And at that point, you just have straight nylon or polyester, not even touching each other, but the water's moving directly through that face fabric. Now, remember, the face fabric matters because polyester doesn't absorb water. It is hydrophobic. Nylon is hydrophilic. It actually absorbs water, and we'll talk about this in the nylon video, but basically after enough time, a nylon suit can absorb up to 10% of its own weight in water. So you're actually having water just absorb through the suit and absorbing straight onto your skin. At least it's not splashing over you, but the effectiveness is reduced quite a bit because that PTFE has broken down. So this is why you need to dry your suits out. It's super important that you do that because it just degrades super quickly. So water is going to be your enemy with this. And again, if you're on, say, a Grand Canyon trip and it's raining every day for 30 days, you're going to have a lot of water damage to your suit. And a lot of people say, hey, the Grand Canyon, it eats up suits. Well, that's why it eats up suits. It's because it destroys the PTFE, and there's not much you can do about that. At that point, essentially the garment is unsalvageable, and you're going to have to get a new one. So that's kind of a broad overview of ePTFE, what it is, how it works. So when you're shopping for a suit, just remember, they all have the same stuff in them. They all have PTFE. It's just the face fabric that you want to look at, and you want to understand what the face fabric means, whether it's hydrophobic, hydrophilic, absorbs water, doesn't absorb water, and how much tear resistance it has for what you're doing. So some things to bear in mind. But if you have questions about ePTFE and you have questions about what kind of suits that you're looking for, got some links down below. I'd be happy to tell you more. Feel free to drop those in the comments, and we will see you next time on the Gear Shed.